Gas versus induction. This week's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm kind of in the middle of that hot debate right now of gas versus induction with a client. So my client John, we're in the midst of a kitchen design plan and a relatively large remodel. And they can't quite choose between gas or induction. So he's asked me to ask all of you, our community, your thoughts, your preferences, and any feedback you can give on Route 1 or Route 2, which way you would go. So this is a rough recap of where the discussion currently sits. As you guys know, with gas, there's a spark that ignites an oxygen and gas mixture that comes through perforations in a burner. This is an immediate and visible heat source. On the other hand, induction is done through electromagnetism. So you have electromagnets that sit underneath a glass surface. These heat up the molecules in a pot or pan, and that generates your heat. Even though heat is instant on a gas range, cooking with induction is always faster. Even when it's compared to the highest powered professional gas style ranges, induction cooking always comes out faster. With induction style cooktops or ranges, you just have a better simmer. So I have firsthand experience with this in my gas range versus my mom's high-end induction cooktop, and my gas range is relatively high-end as well. Even on the absolute lowest setting I can get my flame to, without going out, I still have to baby that simmer and make sure I'm not burning anything to the bottom of my pot. That's not the case with the simmer on her induction cooktop whatsoever. You can set chocolate chips in there, put them to simmer, come back hours later in some instances, and they're melting, but they're not burning. Induction cooktops are safer. This is especially true if you have small kids around who can't quite see over top of that cook surface. Glass top doesn't get scorching hot. Remember, it's not like those electric style cooktops where you'd have that big bright red ball and we burnt stuff to it all the time and the glass top looked terrible. And it's also not like a gas style range where even once that burner is turned off, it's carrying a lot of residual heat. Speaking of kids, one of the best features with induction cooktops is they probably can't even turn it on if they are too young to kind of understand what's going on. So the sensors inside that cooktop need to sense a metal pot or pan on top of that before it's even going to begin its cycle to start heating. Finally, the last sort of topic under safety comes ventilation. Yes, you want to have good ventilation even with an induction cooktop, but it's not nearly the priority it needs to be like, say, a gas range needs. With gas, you want to make sure you're pulling out any of those unburnt fumes or potentially toxic chemicals like nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, all of that stuff out of your air. Induction tends to be producing far fewer of those airborne chemicals, and as we know, also doesn't produce carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. Then you have cleanability, and frankly, this is a no-brainer. It's a glass surface that can be wiped off at pretty well any stage of cooking with an induction cooktop. On the other hand, you have a gas range. It's got nooks and crannies and cast iron grates and burners that need to be disassembled and food that can burn on. It's a process. We have to do it roughly once a week, and I can't say I love it. At this point, it seems a bit like a no-brainer to go induction. However, gas is more reliable. It tends to need less servicing over its lifespan than induction, and when it does need to be serviced, parts tend to be quite a bit cheaper and easier to find on a gas stove versus a induction cooktop. And finally, it's also easier to find a tradesperson who is capable of fixing gas than that of induction. Gas uses less power, a standard 120 volt outlet typically drawing less than 12 amps. This is often why they're a favorite choice of lake houses or cottage properties that have low power or no power at all, or maybe are running off solar. Speaking of power, a gas range can work even with power outages. All you need is some sort of ignition, so a match or a lighter, and that gas will still flow, allowing you still to cook. California? I'm looking at you. Induction, on the other hand, typically draws somewhere around 40 to 50 amps, which is definitely something that needs to be considered. It may mean a service upgrade to your home, if that's even possible. Finally, with gas, we have versatility. You can have griddles, grills, wok-style burners. You have a lot of versatility, a lot of variability that can be achieved with a gas cooktop. You can even cook with different types of materials, say clay pot cooking. On the other hand, with induction, magnetic surfaces and magnetic surfaces only. So as you can see, the debate isn't quite so cut and dry. So I want to know your thoughts. John wants to know your thoughts. Let me know down below if you would go one route or the other and why. Maybe would you stick that route if you were renovating? Would you stick with the gas range? Would you stick with an induction range? Let us know down below. A preemptive thank you for all of your help. As always, thanks a ton for tuning in to HS Design Studio, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.